All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session today, our program spotlight session to learn more about the UTM1 program within the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy. My name is Alicia Singh. I am a recruitment officer here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, and I'm also a recent graduate from the University of Toronto, Mississauga as well. I graduated this past spring with an honors Bachelor of Science. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues, Rebecca, Michael, and Laura, who are going to be sharing a little bit more information about the UTM1 program, all that it has to offer, and what does it really mean for you as a first-year student. As they go through their presentation, I'm going to be behind the scenes with my colleague, Tara and Laura, and we'll be able to answer any questions you folks may have. So at any point, if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the QA section below, and we'll be able to get back to you. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to be bringing on Maya and Amelia. These are two current students who actually were a part of the UTM1 program and took courses within it. And so they're going to be sharing a little bit about their experiences. If at any point throughout the presentation you think of questions that you would love for them to answer, again, feel free to drop it in the Q&A and I can ask them live. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Alicia. Welcome everybody who is here live and also folks who will be joining us when you're viewing the recording. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of kind of some of the core features or highlights of the UTM1 program. These are features that exist in all of the UTM1 courses. So each of our UTM1 courses is a small class size. So that means that there's a maximum of 55 students per class, and you actually get divided into tutorials of a maximum of 28 students. And this means that the classroom community is very interactive. So you get a lot more opportunity to interact with and meet your classmates and build those meaningful relationships that are so important in your first year. And also it means that you get more attention and are able to develop a relationship with your professor and your TA. And you get a lot of guidance and feedback directly from your professor and TA. It's also not program specific, so you'll be meeting students from all different academic backgrounds, students who come from all different programs at the university, and they will be able to bring in lots of different perspectives to when you're discussing the topics and learning about the strategies in the UTM1 courses. And speaking of learning strategies, you're going to learn a lot of transferable academic skills. And what we mean by that is that the skills that you're going to learn in the UTM1 courses, whichever one you decide to take, you're going to be able to apply those into your other courses, into your life, and even into your career after university. The last point I want to make is we definitely are focusing on student success in the UTM1 courses, but we really think of it as holistic student success. So while you're developing really core academic skills, you're also kind of developing these other softer skills like building confidence. You're developing those meaningful relationships with your classmates and your professor and your TA. You're learning how to navigate campus resources, and you're reflecting on your own academic goals and connecting them to your own personal experience and goals. So that sums up kind of what are those real highlights of UTM1 are, but I'm going to pass it over to Professor Laura Taylor next so that she can talk a bit more about UTM115 Communications Among Cultures.
Thanks, Rebecca. So in terms of UTM 115, the question on the slide says, how will learning about intercultural communication impact my success? And so the answer is going to be, how do you define success? So most students tend to define success as like good grades, right? Good grades. But I think there's more to success than that. So sure, in UTM 115, you're going to do some writing. You're going to learn some academic skills that can help you in later years. But I think there's more to success. So in non-COVID times, we had a lot of fun in this class. Students brought such energy and enthusiasm. And I think this drives the class as a whole to work hard. We do things a bit differently in UTM 115. So 2 years ago, we had a pizza party and we talked about how food was a component of culture. We've also played games in class, board games when we could sit next to each other, and virtual games last year. The board games are culture specific, and so we look at how different people respond to different situations. So in coming back to how I think UTM115 will impact your success, I think it's going to help you look at learning in a different way. And I think it's going to allow you opportunities to express yourself in a safe setting. So this, of course, is transferable to any upper year course in the university and then beyond the university context. And so the next question on the slide asks about how UTM115 will help you to develop your own communication skills. And so in some of your bigger lecture classes of first year, there's going to be hundreds of students in the class. So it can be really difficult to get to know your classmates, and it might be a little daunting to speak up in front of all those people. So UTM 115 isn't like that. So as Rebecca said, it's a small class. So 55 students, you're going to get the opportunity to learn about your peers. So typically because of the subject matter, UTM 115 attracts people from a wide range of backgrounds. So not only are you going to learn about culture, but you're going to learn about the real world experiences of your peers, which makes the entire class more interesting. Next slide, please, Rebecca. So this says, who should take 115? So anyone can take UTM 115. But as I said, it's designed for people who are interested in learning about other cultures. So my personal background is in English language learner education. So I do get a lot of people in my class whose first language isn't English. I also get a lot of students who are interested in education and linguistics. And then of course, there's a group who are just excited about the fact that they get a small class with small class size and an opportunity to take something that's a little bit different from their other classes. So UTM 115 is inclusive and anyone can benefit from it. And that's all from me.
All right, thank you, Laura. And I'm a professor for UTM 118 along with a couple of colleagues. And what Professor Taylor just pointed out, a lot of that applies to UTM 118. The focus here is on the science of learning. We explore methods that have been demonstrated to be effective as learning strategies. We explore what the research literature says about learning, about how we learn, about how we retain and access information. So a lot of that is a key focus of the course. The primary rationale for the course is to help students prepare and be successful in their first year. So we mentioned in the second bullet point here that will help you build your academic toolkit. And in effect, what we are talking about when we say that is, although you are coming to the university as a successful student, you would have had to have been to be accepted. The differences between high school and university are quite significant, especially in terms of the amount of material you're going to be exposed to. And there are strategies that have been demonstrated to be effective at ensuring that you progress through the term and your first academic year in a successful way. And these relate primarily to how to study, how to manage your time, which has a relationship to how you study. But also we look at strategies to enhance your critical thinking, your critical reading, your problem solving skills. So we have a number of guest presenters who come in who have different backgrounds. My background is in the sciences. I'm actually a paleontologist and I teach the odd course in CPS and biology. So the neat thing here is that you'll have different perspectives. You'll have an opportunity to interact with different students. Could I have the next slide, Rebecca? So who is targeted for UTM 118? Much like 115, we're targeting first year students from diverse programs. The biggest advantage in that is that unlike your other core courses where you're going to be connecting and meeting students that are essentially interested in the same topics you're interested in, UTM 118, just like 115, offers you an opportunity to meet others. So you will have students from the humanities, from the social sciences, from the physical sciences, from the biological and health sciences. All of these students will be able to interact with one another, share their backgrounds, their interests, their rationales. You'll do a great deal of group work in this course. So having an opportunity to work in a group with a student that is in a completely different discipline gives you a different perspective on things. It allows you to build a strong academic foundation which hopefully will catapult you to having success over the course of your next 3 or 4 years. Fundamentally, the group, the class is organized to be a relatively small class, no more than 60 students. That will be very, very different from the experiences you will have in your other courses, some of them as large as 500. And whether we're in some form online or face-to-face, the interactive nature of the course is a primary focus of the course. And I'm hoping to see some of you next year in UTM118. Thank you.
Thank you, professors, for sharing what your courses are all about. So I'm just coming back on to talk about how do you get involved and participate in these really unique courses. So first of all, I wanted to point out that UTM1 courses are for credit. So those credits can count towards your distribution requirements. Distribution requirements are credits that you need to graduate, and you need 1 in science, 1 in humanities, and 1 in social sciences. So let's say that you're doing an English degree. So definitely you're going to have a humanities credit because you're taking those credits already as part of your program. You're also going to have to find courses that will fulfill both your science and your social science distribution credits. And these courses, as you see, UTM115 Communication Among Cultures can count towards humanities or social science. And UTM118, the Science of Learning, can count towards social science or science. So not only do you get credit, but this also helps you as you move towards graduation. It also, I've heard from lots of students that taking a course outside of your discipline and getting these distribution credits are often the best experiences of their university career. Similar to what Professor DeBraga was talking about, you get to hear multiple perspectives, you get to build relationships with students in other programs, which is actually very unique, and it's a really great opportunity to do this in your first year. So how do you enroll? It's pretty easy. When you're enrolling in your other first year courses in the University of Toronto's course management system, ACORN, which you'll be learning about if you're coming to UTM through all of your pre-arrival communications, you just want to look for UTM115 or UTM118, and you can enroll directly on your first year enrollment date. Of course, this is a lot of information to take in, so I do want to welcome you to contact me. I'm Rebecca. Again, my title is Academic Success Strategist, and you can contact me at utm.1@utoronto.ca with any questions that you have about the UTM1 program, and I'll be happy to respond to those. So I'm going to pass everything back over to Alicia, and I as well hope to see some of you joining the UTM1 program in September.
Thank you so much to all 3 of you for sharing so much information about the program. So now I'm going to be bringing on our student panelists, Maya and Amelia. So they're going to be able to answer any questions that you folks may have. So throughout the presentation, if you thought about anything that you would love to know from the student perspective, feel free to drop it in the QA section, and I can definitely ask our panelists these questions live. Hey, Amelia. Hey, Maya. Do you guys want to take some time to first introduce yourselves? Would you like to introduce your program of study, what year you're in, and then maybe a reason why you decided to join UTM? So I'll start off with you, Maya, first.
Sorry. Hello. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Maya. I am a second year at UTM. I'm majoring in English and minoring in professional writing and communications, as well as sociology. I think the main reason that brought me to UTM was the professional writing program. Out of the tri-campus structure of U of T, the Mississauga campus is the only campus that offers the professional writing program. So that was my driving force. But then I was also really attracted to kind of the mixture of both nature and like modernism that the campus really has. Once we're able to go back to campus and walk all around, you'll really see both the sharp contrast and how some areas are very natural, but some areas are very modern, but how well they kind of connect. So that was another big motivator for me. I'll pass it on to Amelia now.
Hi, I'm Amelia. I'm in first year, as you can see. I'm in the generalized computer science, mathematics, and statistics program. I'm hoping to get into information security, but mostly my focus is on computer science. And the reason I joined UTM was mostly just logistical stuff. U of T is, from what my research, has the best computer science program, or is #1 in Canada. And I also live kind of close to Mississauga. So it was, and Mississauga also has a very lovely campus, like Maya said, even though I haven't technically been there for university. Um, and it's also a smaller campus, which is nice. Apparently it's a 7-minute walk across campus. So it's a lot better than getting lost at University of Waterloo. So yeah.
Thank you both. All right, so I'm going to jump in now. I think what's really great about the UTM1 program is that students across all areas of study are actually able to join courses, and you both are a great example of that. We have Maya over here who's doing English, professional writing, and sociology, with Amelia who's more in the STEM field. So a question I'd love to ask for both of you is, how did the courses that you guys took within this program, and which course specifically, how did they help your other areas of study? Were there any skills or any findings that you found while taking them that transitioned and brought along into your other courses? So this time I'll start off with Amelia, and then we can go over to you, Maya.
I think I took UTM118, and I think especially some of the smaller little details, a lot of the times they would try to gamify things. So they taught you how to approach multiple choice tests, which I really needed, especially in Zoom. They sort of discussed how to get the most out of reading, like you would read it and then review it, and try to recite it afterwards, type of thing, that type of stuff. And I think the most valuable thing I got out of the course was that it's speed running your readings at the start of the week or the start of the year is really helpful. Which I did this semester, and it sure helped me during crunch week, which is right now. So there's a lot less stress, which is really nice. Go ahead, Maya.
Just to piggyback for a second, I really do like the point about speed running readings. That's actually, as someone who does a lot of readings, that's highly helpful actually to, even if you need to revisit some readings later on through the year, you're already familiar with the content that you went over at the beginning of the year when things are calmer. And that helps you a lot going into lectures. For me personally, having also taken the science of learning, which is 118, what I really took away, I guess you could probably guess given my programs, is, the things about academic integrity, critical thinking, critical reading, note taking. Those are the really big ones that I honestly use every single day in every single one of my courses and every single one of my programs. There's never a moment where I don't refer to what I learned in this class. It's genuinely, I think hands down, the most transferable course I've ever taken, and I think I will ever take, because the stuff you learn here, I think as a testament to both my being here as well as Amelia being here, you will find something useful for no matter what program of study you're choosing to enter.
Thank you both for sharing that. So a lot of the time when students are in their first year, they tend to think that their entire course load is just going to be the mandatory courses that are for their program. However, you guys do get a lot of wiggle room to take courses that are outside of it, and the UTM1 program being one of them that allows you to take some of those courses. So I wanted to know, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. How did the UTM1 course that you guys took, so how did that compare to your other first year courses? Did you find, how was the teaching style different, comparable, the workload and so forth? So handing it over to you, Maya.
Okay, so how was the workload in the class setting different? I believe both Laura and Michael talked about this. Whereas just because the class sizes are so much smaller, it's truly an experience you will not have anywhere else, just because not only is it just you're in a smaller classroom, so there's more like professor-student interaction, but then you also work within groups, at least for the course I took, which is, I've already said it, UTM115, but I'm pretty sure 115 also works in a similar facet, sorry, where, you know, you're working with small groups who are from wildly different programs in some cases. For instance, in my year, I worked with, I think, 3 different computer science students who I would have not met otherwise, given my programs. So then I think how that differs the most is just you truly get to interact more with your peers and kind of almost break your echo chamber, where, you know, we grow up or we enter certain fields and we kind of hear the same things and we kind of have a lot of our beliefs reaffirmed. But taking an interdisciplinary course like this, where you get all these unique interactions and like really personal, deep interactions, you really get to challenge kind of what you know and push yourself that much further. So I'll pass it on to Amelia.
Just to sort of add on to that, I was actually in my lecture section, or my course subset, I was actually the only computer science student. So I find it interesting that you had multiple. But yeah, you do get a lot of different disciplines. There were some people in humanities, some people in history. There was me in computer science. There was someone in chemistry from me. In terms of the workload of the course, it really depends on, I think I'm trying to remember how much reading there was. Compared to some of my math programs, there was less reading. And because it definitely like more pages, but there was less like in math, it's packed full of like, you have to figure out every single line of what everything is saying essentially. So in that sense, the workload was a little bit less, but it really depends on what you're good at, because at least that's from what I'm getting from the question. It really depends on what you're good at, because I'm not good at writing. So it was a bit tough for me. But just because there was so much writing and it was more writing focused instead of more logic based, like computer science and math is. But it was, I think from what I remember, there was slightly less assignments, if Maya reciprocates that. Is that?
I can hop on that really quickly. Yeah, that's more or less my experience. I do find that the assignments are less just because it's more of a process-based course where you're working continually throughout the year, or I should say throughout the semester. And then eventually, you know, you kind of, you submit kind of what's called a policy brief, where a really big, I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but a really big project in this course is one that you're working on the entire semester. And what that is that you're kind of thinking about different things throughout your experience at UTM, and you're trying to think about what would you like to see different? What would you like to change? So in that, you kind of just, you know, work a little bit every week. And as long as you are efficient with your time and you're communicative with your partners, the weekly workload, I would say is actually really manageable, especially for the payoff that you get. I hope that helps.
That sounds like an amazing deal. Like, I absolutely love how you guys are able to gain so much out of it, and how it's able to complement all those different areas of study that you both are doing. And then these are actually skills that you can take on all throughout your years at UTM, which is amazing. The next question I have is something probably a lot of folks are probably thinking right now, and that is, how did you even learn about this course? Again, mentioning that a lot of students just think it's just the foundational courses that they have to take. So what caused you guys to come across this? Was this a course that was referred to you? Share a little bit more about your experiences. Handing it over to you, Maya.
All right. So how I actually learned about the course was, I think, over the summer. So it was right before course selection opened up for first year students, which I think is around July. If I remember correctly, I got an email that said, kind of, very paraphrase. It was just like, hey, we saw that you did good in high school. Would you like this interdisciplinary program? And I was like, oh, what's this? So I click on the link they sent me, and it just took me to, I think, just the the Institute for like the study of university pedagogy. So essentially what this like program is. It kind of just took me to the UTM1 page, and it kind of went through all of the different courses. It talked about 115, talked about 118, and it kind of was just like, take a look at these and see if any of them appeal to you. And I almost immediately fell in love with the science of learning, just because I kind of like that. I love learning about learning, and I love learning in general. So to see that it kind of goes deeper than we learn, and it goes into like, we learn, but this is why what we do works. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, that was my experience.
I had a little bit of a different experience. I also got an email about, I think it was the UTM1 scholars. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Look at, oh, they think I have good grades in high school. Wow, I feel so special right now. And I looked through it and I saw a couple, I just looked at I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. Maybe, well, let's see if I like it, because I do need some distribution credits. So sure, why not? So I looked through it and I immediately did not care about any of them. And instead I was like, okay, well, I attended a lot of the orientation things. And one of them was about UTM1. So I'm like, okay, I'll try this, because I still do need a distribution credit. And I found that I saw the science of learning, and I'm a computer science kid, but I've always really been fascinated with how like the mind works, how people work in general, sort of maybe a bit sociological, maybe a bit just psychological, but I've always been interested in that. So I thought, oh, this is interesting. So I attended that, and I really liked how it, like, the overview of the course was very similar to this one. And I really liked that idea, and I really liked the idea that it was sort of a transition between high school and university, sort of like a middle ground. Because I thought that would definitely ease the transition a lot more into university. And then Zoom came, and then it hit like a truck. But other than that, yeah, so it was just sort of discovering it through the orientation system, essentially.
So two things. First off, Amelia, you are special. And the second thing that I'm getting out of the answers from both of you is that if you folks are not used to checking your emails, start checking them, because emails will become a thing in university. And as you can see, this is where you find out a lot of important information, stuff that you usually are used to in high school, hearing from a friend or your teacher telling you. Of course, that still happens in the university setting, but a lot of the ways that people communicate across departments is through email. So definitely get into the habit of checking your email. Speaking of which, I'm going to bring Rebecca on, and she's going to quickly clarify the difference between UTM1 and scholars. So passing it over to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Alicia, and Maya and Amelia. So what I found interesting about hearing about how you heard about UTM1 is the email that you likely got was for our UTM1 Scholars Seminars, which is an invitation to apply to our UTM1 Scholars Seminars, which are a bit different from UTM1 courses. UTM1 courses you can just enroll in as any first-year student. The UTM1 Scholars Seminars are a little bit more exclusive. They're even smaller, and they're based more on the research skills that students want to start learning. So yes, of course, like I start sending out the invitations for UTM1 scholars in probably a week or two. And so students who receive those invitations are welcome to apply to those seminars, and of course to take a look at UTM1 courses if they find the themes and topics of UTM115 and UTM118 more interesting, or if they feel more comfortable or confident going into those courses. We have a lot on offer at the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy, actually. So yes, I totally agree, Alicia. Keep an eye out for those emails. Become a part of Eagle Connect when you get communication about that, when you've accepted your offer to UTM, because you'll be getting a lot of information about kind of how to enroll in courses and what courses you don't want like some of this information to pass you by.
Thank you, Rebecca. So if you folks have any questions, again, drop it in the QA section so that I can ask Amaya and Amelia this live. All right, so looking at the current state that we're in, online learning is really influencing and really becoming a part of our daily lives. So I'd love to hear about your experiences as students. How has your online learning looked like? Has there new skills that have developed since it? What are some kind of pinpoints that you've had struggled with, and then how did you overcome them? So passing it over to you, Amelia.
Not gonna lie, my transition into university was, like I said, I got hit by a truck. Other than that, I think it's been, so far university has taken more of they've focused more on the conceptual sort of side instead. They've mostly been doing open book tests, making assignments a bit harder and more not so much memorization oriented, but more like abstract, I guess, or more analytical type of thing. They test you more on the concepts that you know rather than what you know, which I guess comes with open book tests, but it does mean the tests are a lot harder. But the good news is that probably everybody else is suffering alongside you. And the bad news is you got to work a bit harder. So it definitely is a test of how hard can you work, and also try to get enough sleep. And it really helps you sort of build healthy study habits, because I know for me, I have a tendency to work too much, and I am very much a workaholic. So it's definitely been good to learn how to adjust to university while also taking some time as a break, like going on a walk sometimes and finding some time to eat, try not to pull all-nighters type of thing. So that's mostly what I have to say. Go ahead, Maya.
Sounds good. Or not great, but like, you know what I mean. Essentially, I think more or less things have been kind of the same for me. The transition to online learning as a second year student has been difficult, but I'd say for me personally, it's not impossible to manage as long as you are able to kind of listen to yourself and know exactly how you're feeling, what you're thinking, and figure out what you need to do for yourself to succeed. In terms of how classes have looked, you're going to see either two forms. If we continue any form of online school in the fall, it'll be asynchronous, which essentially means pre-recorded lectures or otherwise different content that is kind of uploaded to your class website. And you do that either within a specific window, depending on what your professor decides, or they'll give you maybe the week to get the asynchronous content completed. Otherwise, you'll see synchronous, which is kind of what's happening now for those of you who are here live. It's yes, you log on at a specific time and you engage in class that way. So sometimes participation will be live in lecture via, speaking with like mic and camera or typing in the Zoom chat, or it'll be maybe after the fact, more asynchronous, where you kind of go into a discussion board and, say your piece, have your ideas to share there. I guess if I should give a bit of advice for how to kind of, adapt to online, the biggest thing I've noticed for me is that I'm someone who benefits from having a separate space from, a space for school and study and a space for relaxation and self-care. So if you are able to find any sort of like separation, even if it's just, you work in your you work in the living room, or you work at the dining room table, or you work in the basement, but then you relax solely in your room, or maybe even in the living room, or I don't know, maybe your kitchen. Kitchen is like, if I'm in the kitchen, I'm not thinking about school. I'm just getting a snack. Just really doing what you can to kind of keep those spaces separate, I think has helped me a lot. And then if you're also in a position where, say like your whole house is just feeling a little numb and feels like it's kind of, gnawing at you more than you would like, going for say physically distanced walks is a really good idea. And, you know, just making sure that you're getting your sunlight, you're getting your fresh air, and getting away from your computer screen in any sort of capacity. And I think with those tips, it's a good start at least to, you know, making your way through online school. Self-care.
Definitely. I can't imagine the transition, how it must have looked like, but it looks like you both have definitely developed a lot of good strategies and a lot of good tips that you're sharing with everyone on how to really deal with it. So before I bring Rebecca back onto the screen, I have one last question for you both, and that is, what support and resources have been most helpful to you during your experience at UTM? So this could be resources that you've used online or if you've used it in person before. So passing it over to you, Amelia, and then over to you, Maya.
I was actually just a point that I had before, which I guess works for this because it's also support. I think it's not really related to UTM, but it's finding like I sometimes for relaxation I just go down and rant to my mom about my classes and I come back upstairs. So having that support, emotional support from your family or like a friend or something is really helpful. Especially if you can see them in person. I live with my family, so it's a bit easier. In terms of school supports, I think for assignments, specifically for more writing assignments, the library is actually very helpful. And it does give you a lot more, there's so many different research articles and stuff you can pull up, and it's really helpful for researching. Other than that, textbooks, readings, Quirkus especially has been very helpful. All of the materials are on Quirkus type of thing. Office hours can be helpful if you're really not sure about anything. And sometimes your office hours can turn into just fun little calculus games, like one of my office hours did. We just did calculus for 3 hours. It was great. But those can be really helpful. I go to some of them, and ones that my friends are like, oh, these are great. That's really helpful. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I got.
No, honestly, like those are all like really valid. Like I'm listening to you, like just like it's interesting for me having, or like since you're like your only experience with UTM so far has been online, so just hear you like tick all these boxes. I'm like, yes, I'm glad students are still getting these. But yeah, office hours where it's just, you know, you either like some professors will have like a certain time set aside for it. Like if you want to come talk to me, here is when you can come talk to me. You know, so sometimes it's drop-in, sometimes you're supposed to book an appointment. So yes, especially in a virtual setting, those are the way to kind of build those personal, or I should say like, you know, like academically personal, professional, that's the word, those professional relationships with your professors. And then also to, yes, Quirkus, which is, you know, what we call our class site that goes like all across campus. Actually, I think it's like it's U of T wide. It's hosted by Canvas. So it's possible you've seen those memes on Instagram where everyone's just talking about, you know, the Canvas class site. And everyone's like, why do we all have the same class site? It's because it's hosted by this big sort of company and it all has the same format. But yeah, so making sure that you really know and get to know Quirkus and learn how to navigate it, that's very important because you're going to find a lot of like little nuggets of information and knowledge that your professors hide in there. So you really want to make sure you are, you know, proficient in your class site. Some other resources that I can think of is currently actually, like I'm not on campus currently, but I live on campus as a residence don. So as part of my job, I am supposed to live there and I work with like a community of students who essentially I get to know. And I'm like, in addition to acting as just like a liaison for, you know, both like emotional support and academic support. So between like, maybe like the professional staff members of the residence department or just other like general supports online, I'm kind of just that person that, you know, they're a little more approachable, a little less bureaucratic, and it feels a little more natural. But on top of that too, I'm kind of just like I guess you could say, a friend. So really what I'm summing up here is that if you do have the capacity to live on UTM residence for at least your first year, not even like from a bias standpoint here, it's just I would highly recommend it if that is something you are able to do, because it really does make a difference in your transition. But then also it's just like, it's a really nice way to meet friends and meet those connections to, you know, as Amelia said, like to find that ranting buddy. You just like maybe like a weekly date at the Starbucks or something. And it's like, I hate my classes or I love my classes. It's a really good way to do that. So there you'll have access to a Don, but then also a peer academic leader who will kind of help you sort of navigate like school very specifically. Other resources I can think of are, you know, Acorn. And what that is while Quirkus is your kind of your school navigator, I'll call it, like your class site, Acorn is your university site. So Acorn is where you will find everything from how you, like, you know, it's like you're like what you owe the institution for like your classes, as well as, you know, how to plan your academic career, where you'll find your transcript, unofficial transcript. You know, it's where you will kind of find everything you need to know about the university and about your time in the university. The reason I'm emphasizing this so much is that there are, there's two tools on that website that really help me. The first one is called, I think it's the Academic Planner. I think that's what it's called. I'm blanking, but essentially it'll show you your programs once you, either if you're in the general stream or you've applied to a program of study and you've gotten in, it will show you everything you need to do, like in a nice, clean, organized list to graduate and complete that program. So there's no questions asked. It'll break it down very clearly for you. That's, Degree Explorer, sorry. That is what that's called. Degree Explorer will break everything down. Something else I use is the Timetable Planner. And essentially, it's a website where it's like a database that says every single course that's being offered in your current year. So whether that's, you know, the school year or the summer term, you can like search up specific courses, you can search up general programs, and it'll give you everything from course descriptions to prerequisites. Like, what do you need to do before I'm allowed to take that course? So to summarize, Degree Explorer and Timetable Planner. Those are two very strong academic resources that you have available to you, and that will honestly clean up a lot of a lot of questions.
I just wanted to add something actually, because I just remembered the number one support that's just absolutely been a lifesaver for me is TAs. So you have professors, which are like your teachers, and then you have TAs, which are like the tutors kind of. But they lead like small little sections. And so if you don't exactly jive with your professor's lecture style, which multiple times has happened to me, you just go to your TAs and they save you because they explain everything perfectly and you completely understand. That is if you have a good TA, but hopefully you get a good TA. But that's happened for me 2 times so far, for both two math courses. My TAs have been absolutely fantastic and have saved me so much trouble of going over and being plagued by statistic numbers and stuff like that. Like, it's just, they're a lifesaver. I'm so happy with them. And I know, at least in computer science and math and stuff like that, people tend to be a lot more relaxed than high school teachers. At least my high school teachers were. And TAs are pretty chill as well. So it can be enjoyable that way, especially talking to your TAs can be really enjoyable. That's all. That's the number one support.
Thank you both. You guys shared a lot of great resources, and I can definitely echo the office hours, speaking to TA, speaking to professors, and really just going through Quirkus and really reading through your syllabi properly, word for word. You're going to catch on a lot of deadlines, a lot of stuff. And I agree with you, Maya. There are a lot of times where they'll be like, oh, this is actually what's going to be covered. But in class, they may not say it out loud. At least from my experience, I've noticed that. So Definitely agree with both of you there. So thank you so much to both of you for sharing your experiences. I'm pretty sure it left a great impact on the attendees, and they were able to learn a lot from this. So bringing you back on, Rebecca, I have two questions for you. The first one is, what type of student do you recommend to enroll in the UTM1 course? Is there a specific skill that they should already have, or is it really just open for anyone to join into?
Yeah, so I believe that any incoming first year student will benefit from taking a UTM1 course. Whether you feel less confident in your academic abilities, or whether you feel like, you're doing pretty well and you've got a good handle on it, there's always more to learn. And also because the UTM1 courses are specifically designed to really introduce you to some of the differences in the expectations between high school and university, and really kind of hone those academic skills and learning strategies in this whole new context and a whole new environment. You're going to be expected to kind of be taking on this new academic rigor at UTM, and the UTM1 courses can really help you in a safe and supportive classroom environment, kind of figure out how to go into this new context and develop those skills that are really going to be helpful with your success in your other courses. Can I answer the other question? Yeah, so the other question, I know some of you came in late, is about how can you enroll in a UTM1 course? And I'm really glad that Maya brought up UTM Timetable and Acorn. So you can enroll in a UTM1 course when you enroll in your other first year courses through the course management system, which Maya mentioned is called Acorn. And so this is where you'll go and you will find us under first year courses. Again, our department is a long name. It's called the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy, or ISUP, ISUP. You can also, on the Timetable Planner, in advance of actually enrolling in your courses, you can take a look when the courses are posted under ISUP as well, and under first year courses, to see what days and times the courses are going to be available. We will be offering multiple sections of UTM118 next year. So there should be a good fit. Hopefully that will fit within all of your other first year courses that you need to take. And again, I do want to emphasize that any student will benefit from the courses. It is a really great opportunity to take a course that's not in your specific program, so that not only can you learn some skills that you can apply to your other studies, but also just learn from different perspectives, meet different people, really make that transition from high school to university a bit easier, a bit more at ease. And I'm going to say it doesn't mean that there's necessarily less work in the courses. So this really, any student that really wants to engage with learning will really benefit from the courses. And the work that you do is structured in a way that we're calling it scaffolding your learning. So it is a process. So you go step by step so that you will learn what you need to ultimately be successful.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, Michael, Laura, Amelia, and Maya, for sharing all of your experiences and explaining a little bit more of what does the program and these specific courses look like. I wish I actually took this course when I was in first year. So for all the attendees, take the course for me. If you're contemplating on it, I definitely think you'll be able to get a lot out of it. Take it and let me know what your experience is like. I would love to hear it. So thank you so much to everyone who did join this session and to everyone who was participating. If you haven't already gotten a chance to take down their contact information, do you mind just jumping to that slide, Rebecca? Feel free to reach out and ask them any of your questions. Again, our office is always here to help and to answer any questions you folks may have. So thank you so much for everyone. And I hope you have a great night, morning, or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you.